Welcome back, everyone. Okay, today we are unpacking one of humanity's absolute biggest, most brain bending philosophical questions, but we're doing it entirely through the lens of science, physics, and human biology. We're going on this massive journey from the macroscopic laws of the universe all the way down to the microscopic firing of the neurons inside your own brain.
It really all boils down to this one fundamental question. Are you actually making your own independent choices? Or are you simply an actor, just flawlessly executing lines from a pre-written cosmic script that you had literally zero hand in writing? It's a scientific mystery that has frustrated the greatest minds in history, and, well, we're going to try to unravel it together right now.
Okay, let's dive right into this with Section 1, the Clockwork Universe, Newton's Determinism.
So, if you've ever taken a high school physics class, this is going to look pretty familiar. In classical mechanics, everything acts like a giant cosmic line of falling dominoes, right? If you know the exact initial conditions of a particle, like exactly where it is and how fast it's moving, you can apply simple physics equations to perfectly predict where it's going to be in the future. It's just pure cause and effect. And because every single action is just the result of a previous action, classical physics strongly implies a completely predetermined future. If the universe is really just atoms bumping into each other, and we know exactly how they bump, then the future is mathematically locked in. You aren't pushing the domino, you're just watching it fall.
Now, Newton thought time was this steady, absolute ticking clock everywhere in the universe. But then Albert Einstein came along, bringing us to Section 2, relativity and the script. Einstein developed this mind-bending concept, the relativity of simultaneous events. Think of his famous thought experiment with a moving train. If lightning strikes two places at once, a person standing completely still on a platform will see both strikes at the exact same time. But a person speeding by on the train, they'll actually see one strike happen before the other. No, seriously. It completely breaks our common sense. It actually proves that the present moment, what you and I experience as now, is not experienced the exact same way by everyone in the universe.
And that leads us to this honestly staggering conclusion, the block universe. If my now could somehow be your past or somebody else's future, then the past, present, and future must actually all exist simultaneously on a single physical sheet of spacetime. And if the entire timeline is already laid out like a physical map, well, then the future is already written. From Einstein's perspective, this leaves us human beings with exactly zero choices. And this brilliantly illustrates Einstein's deterministic worldview. He frequently cited this quote from the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. It basically means that, sure, you might act on a desire to go drink a cup of coffee, but you didn't consciously choose to want the coffee in the first place, did you? You're just obeying an urge written into your biological script by the universe itself.
So if we stop right there, the universe is just a rigid, predictable machine. But wait, when scientists zoomed in from stars and planets down to atoms and electrons, they discovered a microscopic world that totally broke those clockwork rules. Welcome to Section 3, the quantum confusion.
Watch how fast everything we just learned completely falls apart. Max Planck showed us that energy doesn't flow continuously. It actually travels in these little chunky packets called photons. Then, the famous double-slit experiment proved that a single electron can act as both a wave and a particle, literally seeming to exist in multiple places at once. Even wilder, Heisenberg's principles showed that the mere act of observing or measuring a quantum particle forces it to pick a physical state. So ultimately, Schrödinger realized that at its deepest level, the basic nature of the universe is not a fixed clock at all. It's a cloud of swirling probabilities. It is inherently entirely chaotic.
Now, Einstein absolutely hated this. He totally refused to believe the universe was random. He insisted there had to be hidden variables, that the universe was still perfectly predictable, we were just missing some key pieces of information. But decades later, experiments involving Bell's inequality and quantum entanglement definitively proved Einstein wrong. When two particles are entangled, changing one instantly changes the other, even across the entire universe, with zero hidden information passed between them. Spooky action at a distance. It proved that the universe actually has true, inherent randomness right at its very core.
At first glance, this sounds like a huge victory for free will, right? If the universe isn't a predetermined clock, hey, maybe we do have choices. But the absolutely crucial point here is this. True randomness does not equal free will. Look at it this way. Just because a quantum particle randomly chooses to spin up or spin down doesn't mean you are making a conscious choice. If a restaurant hands you a random menu with only two options and you randomly pick one, you're still just picking from a preset list that you didn't create. Randomness is just not agency. So physics, whether it's totally predictable or completely random,
doesn't seem to give us our freedom back. But what if we leave physics behind for a second and look at human biology? Let's move to Section 4, Neuroscience and Free Will. Back in the 1980s, a neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet ran this now famous experiment. He hooked subjects up to brain monitors and told them, hey, press a button whenever you feel the urge, and just note the exact millisecond you consciously decide to push it. The subjects consciously decided to press the button at 200 milliseconds before the physical action. Makes sense, right? But the brain scans showed something shocking. An unconscious electrical signal to press the button had already fired in their brain 500 milliseconds before the action. That means your unconscious brain actually decides to act a full 300 milliseconds before you're even consciously aware of making a choice. Mind blown, right?
But here is the massive twist that actually brings our agency back. Libet noticed that in that tiny 200 millisecond window between becoming consciously aware of the urge and actually pressing the button, the subjects had the power to stop it. We might not have free will to originate our actions. Our unconscious brain just sort of throws those urges at us automatically. But the science suggests we absolutely have free won't. We have the conscious capacity, the literal veto power, to hit the brakes and cancel an action before it happens.
Let's look at this table and see how this all builds our complete picture. We started way back with classical mechanics, which told us everything is predetermined and we have absolutely no choice. Then we zoomed into quantum mechanics, which said the universe is probabilistic. But that really just means our actions are random, not free. Finally, we land on modern neuroscience, which suggests our true human agency lies entirely in our veto power, our free won't.
So why does all this highly technical science matter to you and me in the real world? Because the source material for this explainer brilliantly applies this empowering concept of free will to modern socio-political events, bringing us to Section 5, the choice of nonviolence.
The source actually draws a direct line between the biology of our brains and the clashes we see out in society, things like student protests and police responses. When tensions are incredibly high, whether you're a protester feeling wronged or a police officer following orders, your unconscious brain will instantly generate signals of anger or urges to strike out. You might not control that initial spark, but you possess free will. You have the biological veto power to stop the swing of the baton or the throwing of the stone. The source highlights Mahatma Gandhi, who historically exercised this exact power by consciously choosing to veto violence. It also points to the revolutionary Bhagat Singh, noting his alignment with the idea that true, lasting revolution is never brought about by bullets. Both of them exercise the ultimate human veto.
And that brings us to the profound weight of our choices. The source actually concludes with this striking translated poem. To those watching the burning house, your roof is made of straw. If you remain silent at my murder, your turn is next. It's a really powerful reminder that while the universe might throw chaotic, random circumstances at us, our conscious choice to step in, to veto violence, and to refuse to remain silent matters profoundly to everyone. Your free won't is the ultimate shield for society. Wow, we have traveled from Newton's predictable dominoes through Einstein's block universe into the utter chaos of the quantum realm, and right into the firing neurons of the human mind. We may never perfectly, mathematically prove the existence of complete free will, but science strongly points to our powerful ability to say no. So, as you go out into the world today, amidst all the urges and influences thrown your way, the ultimate question is this: how will you exercise your free won't? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.